I guess to start off with, Bill, did you want to just share a little bit of an overview of who Bill is?
Well, sure. And thanks for that intro. That's super warm and very, very kind. And it's my honor to be here. I love networking and connecting with like-minded folks and people that aspire to be, to work for themselves. And, the key is just starting, taking that risk and minimalizing it and just going for it. I mean, the worst that can happen is you fail a little bit or you fail a lot. And, it's a little setback. It's a minor setback in life, but those are the most important times because that's when you learn the most. So, and that's the story of Bill. Fail, 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 succeed, fail, succeed, fail, 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 succeed. Big success, And so it's you make it look easy when you're here, but like looking back at the journey, it's one of those things where every step along the way was so key and so fundamental to getting here. Even though the pain and the suffering, the agony when you're in the thick of it, so to say, is awful. It's one of the worst feelings in the world. But that belief that you can make something better and strive for something more, and pay for awesome shirts like this someday. That's what makes it worthwhile. So that's the story of Bill. From the young age, the very first time I did a lemonade stand out of my corner at my house. I was hooked of selling stuff. It was just that was the like that first transaction. I was something lit up inside of me, and I never will forget that moment. 5 or 6 year old Billy, I don't even remember, how old I was, but I was pretty young, maybe 7, whatever, right? Just that's from that moment on, it's all I've thought about of how I can get something and have somebody else want that item, and I can make just a little bit of money in between. And then when I started so I did like some random stuff. I traded. My neighbor wanted her lawn mowed for the summer, so we traded. And I wanted a 2x CD, component from my computer, the CD reader writer. And so like that was one of my first barter transactions. Like I'll do your lawn. And looking back at it, I mean, it's like those were expensive in the day, but I definitely was on the wrong end of that. But you trade your time for money, or you trade your time for labor in this case, and it was a good exchange, and we both won on that. And e-commerce wise, I fell into books. I just started with stuff around the house, and I worked my way there with like some random stuff to kind of dip my toe in the water, if you will. But books were something I just fell into, and you know, um, like Mr. Bezos says, they're everywhere at the time, and they're easy to manage, and they're kind of all about the same size and easy to catalog, and just scaled up. And along the way, done some other stuff as well, but primarily books. And here I am. So hope that was 45 years in a 2 minute nutshell.
No, that's it's amazing, and you know the photo of you with Jeff was that 2006?
Yeah, I want to say 2006. Yeah, it might be 2007. It could be 2005. That's kind of the range. I should do some more research on exactly when it was because it does kind of irk me because the anniversary I think might be today it's right around this window where it was literally, yeah. So I mean we're coming up on 20 years, if today's not 20 years, and I like celebrating milestones like that, and so I do need to look into it. So I'm gonna write that down on my little trusty pad here and get back to you, and
Yeah,
more for
no,
me, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So.
yeah. What was it? Just out of curiosity,
Mhm.
what was it like meeting Jeff in 2006 or so? What was it like?
To go back in time, it was a big build up because like we had some Amazon exec. It was the seller conference for online entrepreneurs, and so it was like a a conference that sellers set up, and then kind of adjacent to Amazon, where like they were welcome to come by, but for the first like 2 or 3 years, they didn't do much of anything. And then one year they were like opening the doors and said, "Hey, you want to come and have a day at our shop?" And it was the big, their first like office was in Seattle on this hospital on a hill that overlooked Seattle. And so we were able to get like their conference room and look around and see their big timeline on the wall with like their milestones. And I was already celebrating milestones before, but like that to me, that proved like, hey, if I'm doing this and I have like no milestones and this big at the time, still a little company, but big at the time, they're obviously exponentially larger now. But like if they're doing it, then I'm on the right path. And these are kind of self-validations that we get along the way, right? When you see like somebody else doing something that might not make sense, but then you pick it up. Okay, I'm on the right track here. So anyway, I did the day, and it's like, ooh, Jeff might come by. Ooh, Jeff's in a meeting. Jeff would love to stop by now, but he's got something to do. And then all of a sudden, it was like the doors opened, and two guys were in, kind of looking around, and then Jeff steps through, and he walks in and kind of talked to here and there, and just everybody wanted a piece of him, right? And I'm like, I am not leaving this place till I get a picture. And spiky hair, no glasses, and about the same weight, which is good. Me grabbed him, and just a bellowing laugh commands the room and commands the respect. Like everybody, even on Amazon, so I had to straighten up a little bit and check their cheeks for crumbs and stuff. And yeah, but everybody knew that he was there. So and then he left, and that was it. Probably 5 minutes. So yeah.
Yeah, well, what a story to share. What a story that is, because obviously Jeff is one of the most successful people in history, and what is one of the things I have said a couple of times. I love when, especially now when you've got YouTube, you can go back and watch like Jeff's original kind of speeches back in 1996, and it's really
Right.
fascinating to know what their mindset and everything is. And you're very successful in your own right, Bill. I mean, you're am I right in thinking in saying based on your credentials, you're the number one best-selling person of books across eBay and Amazon, right?
Not only, yes, but a little caveat. Not only books, Kevin. We are the number one seller in the world of anything based on transactions on eBay. So there might be like someone that sells yachts or high ticket items, whatever. So their gross dollars might be larger than ours, but on a per transaction basis, nobody's bigger than World of Books. And we're under the name Second Sale at the moment because that's just like the brand we built before World of Books acquired us. But yeah, we are number one there. From any widgets, you do sports cards, you do medical equipment, you do grocery, whatever. We are number one and number two and number four or five. But collectively, we're even then bigger than all the top 10 combined, which is cool. And then on Amazon, yes, we are the number one bookseller there. And we're like the number fifth, but depending on the day, total seller based on, again, transactions and feedback. So,
That's
yeah. And we
amazing.
don't do any of that like farming feedback stuff, like where we inflate stuff. We don't got time for that. So, yeah, it's all genuine. So,
No, that's amazing, Bill. It really is, and it just goes to show. You just mentioned there that your business was acquired by World of Books, so clearly
mhm.
you were doing something really, really amazing for them to be even interested, and ultimately, it's a great strategy for businesses to acquire others and become a bit. What was that? What was that kind of journey like? Because from an entrepreneur and a business owner point of view, that's a big decision for you to kind of, what was your thought process during that time?
Yeah, so well, to back up a little bit in time, I had my own company that I started back in 2006, technically, even though I was selling stuff because we all kind of work in and 2006 was the time I went full time on things, and uh, I started that. And then I started a second company in 2009, similar to the online company, but for offline sales. Then I acquired another company, and I bundled all three of those together to sell back your book in 2019. So Glenn, the founder of Sell Back Your Book, is the one who built the main company that was acquired by World of Books. But on the other hand, I was the one who lit gasoline on his company. When I joined him, he was doing $18 million a year. And in 3.5, 4 short years later, we did 108 million. So, and he was in business for 12 years before then, putting along to 18 million. And again, I say that, with a nice grin and shining, like 18 million is no small feat, but to, was that about a 6x in 3.5, 4 years? That's where I came in. So, but that shows you the power of collective force, right? So Glenn was super, and still is super technical and super introverted and the great mind behind a lot of things. And then I'm the one who makes those connections and the outgoing part. And so like together, we were that unstoppable force. So it's like Glenn will tell you it's all me. I will tell you it's all him. it wouldn't have happened individually. It had happened together. So, and that's the bottom truth. So, um, but but yeah, like being acquired is one of those dreams where it's like nice to check a box and it's awesome to get there. It is though a different feeling on the other side of it because all your life, or at least all your life of being in that company that you started, you're the one calling the shots. You know, you're the one wearing multiple hats. You're the one driving the business forward, doing all the things and kind of entering your day of saying, I know what I kind of need to do today, but I might veer off and take a hard left or a sharp right or a U-turn, and that's kind of the fun of it. Whereas um, now it's a more corporate structure, and I want to always challenge myself too, to get there. And I never knew if I could fit in the corporate culture and learn how to build a giant business. World of Books has over 1,000 employees, so and like to fit that structure because like for whatever's next in my life, that's where I want to be. I want to be a 5x World of Books, right? But in a maybe a different space, or whatever. So it's like to conceptualize that. I think the best way to do it is to learn from within and take what I can absorb and apply it to my own next thing. So that's where it is. So it's you lose a lot of the influence, but on the other hand, you gain a lot more Glenn's and Bill's situations where it's like, hey, I don't have to wear all these hats. I have an expert here and an expert here that like are, try as I might, I am not a graphic designer. I'm kind of a marketer, but like when you have like the best of the best and the best of the best here, like that's a comforting, a comfort position to lean on those folks and trust that they're going to do their job. So it's a different mindset ultimately, but it's a decision we made. It was totally the right call. We're super excited about the future, and here we are. So yeah,
Yeah, I think you just said something there which I think is so powerful, and that is, you and your partner, like it, 1 plus 1 doesn't equal 2 in a scenario
right,
like that. One
correct,
plus one can actually equal 10 because the synergies can truly when you complement each other. So that's one of the reasons why. Number one, I've always loved um, one events and meeting and being in communities and inviting people to the warehouse because ultimately there's so much of an opportunity, and I really do believe that we're living through the most incredible time in history with so much.
totally,
Don't get me wrong, there's obviously a hardship with that as well, and there's a hard side of life. But when you think of the internet, when you think of artificial intelligence, we're really living through a wild of a time. And sharing that with others is actually the amazing thing because not everybody knows everything. And
right,
you learn from everybody, right? So
yep.
I guess if you guys have you got any kind of comments or notes, don't hesitate to put some things in the chat, and we will certainly get through any questions or anything like that. Um, I guess one of the things that I just thought of then, based on what you were saying then, Bill, was you obviously entered that company and you managed to kind of 5x it. What's your mindset going into kind of a business, and what you focus on?
I always like adding value any which way I can, find that strategic partnership that is a similar gasoline that lines up with my principles on does it add value? Is it an equitable transaction? We don't want to be one that just kind of value sucks. We want to value add back and forth, right? If we can give them a reason to, anytime you change a process, nobody wants to change, right? So it's like if we can nudge that change forward, but dangle an incentive or dangle a carrot that makes sense for them. And this one, checks the sustainability box. It checks more revenue for them, helps mitigate their labor. So it's like win-win-win, right? And these things were already happening too. We weren't reinventing a wheel. We're just making a better mousetrap. So similarly, it's like I don't want to make a three-eyed glasses. That's stupid, right? Or if it's shifted around for sunglasses, like no, nobody's ever doing that. On the other hand, maybe we just came up with something. Who knows, right? But like, I'm not going to take that journey to invest millions of dollars to be like, hey, this is the next coolest thing. You're going outside, whoop, and like whatever. They're here in the meantime, right? It's so dumb. But on the other hand, like, people are inventive, and like even with markers, there's like multi-tipped ones now, where it's like, hey, it's red over orange here and red here. So it's like I'd wait till the marker people do that before I'd, but that's a value add, right? It's like two markers in one because it's so difficult to so heavy to pick up these markers. Oh boy. But like, I don't know. You see what I'm saying? It's just like if you can do something that's already there, you can follow that path and add on to it. Whereas like inventing something, that's still a great path, but I'm more in the mindset of saying, hey, what's already happening and how can I improve on it and make it better? So, and the path for me was very, very clear with what Sell Back Your Book had and what they were missing because I was already doing it with my companies just at a smaller scale. So it's like I connected the dots and then was the accelerant for the companies. So
No, that's amazing, amazing, and ultimately, there's if you, and this is why I always talk about creating win-win-win like partnerships,
yep,
because if you can create a scenario where everybody wins, then that's going to ultimately help everybody, right? So
correct.
no, I love that. So, what does your kind
And
of
it seems cheesy, but it's truthfully like that's the true path to success where you have partners that are going to be loyal and stick with you because my time horizon with it when I'm making a partnership, I'm not talking to someone just to like do one transaction. I'm not talking to you just to have one connection here, right? I want to talk to you and your team, Kevin, to for years and like and help add and inspire folks on your end for as long as possible till as long as I can am able to talk and have some knowledge to share, right? That's my goal. And if it was very one-sided, then it'd be like, hey, that if Bill showed up 10 minutes late, was a prima donna, and we made a ship two pallets of Fiji water to his home. He didn't even drink it, like beforehand, like stupid, right? That's a bad partnership. I'd be a really bad partner. And I know we had some scheduling issues beforehand, but that was unrelated to any of the bad partners, right? Yeah. It's a little insight for you. You could edit that out if you want to. But the live people get a little insight. Anyway, the my time horizon on partnerships is 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years because I want to help people keep them in business. I want to help them move things forward, and that's my time horizon. And similarly to like Jeff Bezos, when he started Amazon, he didn't need to make a profit or didn't he didn't want he of course he wanted to make a profit, but he walked in saying, I don't need to make a profit for the first 7 to 10 years. And I think it was about 7 to 8 years before they finally turned their first profitable quarter. And it's like that was a completely revolutionized like Wall Street and that mindset because they're always for that short-term time horizon to buy it, flip it, and move on. And my time horizon is not that. So I think that's what makes the best partnership. So all right, I just want to fit that in there.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think Jeff is probably one of the most famous and the most successful people in history of talking long term, right?
Hmm.
Talking long term, but focused on day one, as he calls it, right? It's having that
Yep.
urgency and the obsession every single day, but knowing that it's going to take time. And some people won't see it. And he experienced that in probably extremes that none of us have experienced before, where Wall Street are like, you are not making money. Why aren't you making money? And him trying to explain that, you know, everything is working in the right direction, and nobody will second guess him now, obviously 20 years plus later, 30 years. Um,
Yeah.
but also, you just mentioned from a partnership point of view, and I'd love to get your take on this as well, Bill, because I talk about like the core values that you're kind of looking for in somebody and what they represent if you're going to be able to go into a partnership or a friendship or whatever the case might be in terms of a professional point of view. What do you look for in terms of core values?
So by nature, I like curious people. I like people that are always going to look at something and say, "Hey, I wonder what's actually in this multi-purpose lens cleaner. Is it crap or is it actual something that like, yeah, is it just water that I could use for my faucet? Did I get hosed, here, or is it something? So I like curious people like that. I like relentless people. People that are obsessed, people that are going to keep pushing it forward when the chips are low, they're going to still be calm under the pressure, but manageable and able to, you know, go all in when they have to, if they need to, and be cool and collected. I like people that learn from their mistakes because, gosh, that's the best time. Like I've made a ton of them in life and in business and otherwise, and like that's the time when you learn the most. And I like perspective as well because like when you are in the thick of it, like we mentioned earlier, like it seems terrible, but like there's always another day. There's always a bigger journey out there. And so keeping that perspective and likewise too, when like, okay, hey, we're number one in the world, this is great. But like I don't introduce myself to like people that I like making new friends. Like, hi, I'm Bill Martin, like number one seller on eBay in the world. Hi, how you doing? Like that's a terrible like I've had friends for 2 years and they finally like learned what I do. Like in Ocean City last week when I was with my daughters, like I finally told some people like, oh yeah, because they're like, hey, you sell stuff online, right? And then it came out. But like that's how like reserved I am about it. Like they could Google, they could look up stuff, but like it's not that's not my and I could be better at that a little bit too. But like I'm not. It's keeping the perspective in a sense where it's like that could all go away and go away quickly. And it's just a nice little thing to have. But like, my perspective is there's only one way to go. Once you're number one, there's only one way to go, and that's not the way you want to go. So maintain is great, but like, yeah, nobody likes to go down. So those are like core principles. Of course, I'm big on recycling and sustainability and giving back, just putting out good energy to the world, doing things that I don't care if I get any return in the sense of like just being a nice person, being a good, decent human being. That's it's very basic, but like it goes a long way. Anytime I see like, especially on public, you see a father yell at their kid, and it's like, okay, like what could be so bad to like make a scene and embarrass this kid? Like there's the right way to do things and the wrong way. And like and maybe the kid is a terror, but like and we all get to that boiling point sometimes. So I never want to get in the middle of anything. But like on the other hand, like chances are the person is just a hothead and a jerk mostly, and like there's a better way to handle things. So keeping that perspective, keeping that way of just being a good human and putting out good like these are people I like to align myself with, and like-minded people as well. Like lastly, I'd say people that like laziness. We all have our days where we just want to relax and chill for an hour or for a day or whatever. That's fine. But like ultimately, when you have like a big pattern of that, that's just you get one life here. You get one spin, you get one go. And like I like having a lot of balls in the air, a lot of things I'm juggling and a lot of different projects. And that's what I like to do. I like to stay busy, I like to stay focused, but I like to have a lot of like things in the line of like in the hopper of like maybe do or someday do or just like investigate for pass it off to somebody else to do. So 'cause laziness is not an attribute I take lightly. So
No, yeah, I really appreciate you sharing because it's certainly something that I've really thought about quite a lot over these last couple of years. Like over and I think it was because we've just turned 10 in our business, so like
mhm.
10's like a milestone, and it just makes
Huge
you
milestone.
reflect.
Congratulations. That's
Oh,
spectacular.
yeah, thank you so much. And I always like to reflect on journeys and like look back. And I think one of
Mhm.
my lessons were like I've met a lot of great people, and I've also met some not so great people. And like there's from kind of thinking about it, there's some real clear values. And you just mentioned a day to day where you see a parent just maybe losing their head with a child. Does it really need to be in public? Does it even need to be
Right.
in anywhere? Right. And then maybe just a bit of a hothead. But yeah, it's certainly and then I'm now fascinated on what other people's values are and what they look for. But then you also mentioned something there, Bill, which I think these gents here and those that are going to be watching are going to find really interesting, if you don't mind sharing, is you've obviously mentioned a couple of times just then, like you've had some failures, right? We all
Mhm.
had failures. Is there any like failure or a couple of failures that you can think of and go like, that's the lesson that I learned, that's what it taught me?
Oh yeah, I mean, there's always big bad buys and big buys and bad timing moves of things where um you do stuff and it just doesn't work out. The very first book sale, external book sale we did. So I stumbled on when I mentioned before I had the e-commerce company that I built, through 2009 and onward. But like around 2009 is when I started a secondary company for offline sales because I noticed um, there were some recent bestsellers, popular authors, books that I'd see a lot of that we couldn't make any margin online. And but yet they were selling at my local Target or Walden Books at the time, or Barnes and Noble. And so I'm like, well, how can these retail places sell it for 9, 10, $12? And they're brand new books, they're 3 months old books, but because they're so flooded online, and I knew it was supply and demand and all that, but like still other places were selling it, just not online. So I had a problem and I said, I need to solve it. Well, in the midst of solving it, we almost tore down my entire business because of the way in which we stacked books to go for the external event. And in the warehouse, we didn't have clear marking. We didn't have a clear area where those books were supposed to go. And we ended up switching the books that were supposed to take to the event and ended up taking a bunch of the freshly listed online stock, which then we didn't notice till Saturday evening, which was a whole day, and most of the first day into the event, we were selling 10, 20, $30 books online for two, three, $5 cash and credit. And it's like, that's a bad, that's bad. On the surface level, obviously that's bad because you're making 10% of the money that you're supposed to. But it's really bad to your Amazon account when those 1,500 items were just listed and a couple hundred have sold since Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Friday, say whatever, and it's like, so now we have multiple problems, and we have all this stock that is now, was set for the event that's just dead till the next event, that we have to house. So like Amazon shut off the account, and like we had already had a couple like cutoffs before where we were suspended. So like this was the last time, and luckily they had the Amazon, that similar Amazon event where I met Mr. Bezos at in my pocket, where that was like a month later, and flew out there and figured it out, and then they held my money for another 90 days. So like, because I basically said like, what's it going to take type of thing, because we were a big seller at the time, but like still they didn't care as much and didn't have as many metrics. But like, we learned along the way, hey, have clear markings, make it simple, child proof in a sense, make just because it's common knowledge, it needs to be clear, and we cannot have that happen again. So and there's, that's one that just sticks out as like the hardest gut punch, but like you overcome it, and you make sure to, fix things. And along the way, yeah, there's tons of stuff. There's nothing like life changing or altering or like no criminal enterprise or anything like that or whatever. I don't know. Like, but I love to have some really juicy stories of whatever. But no, they're all primarily business related. But stuff like that, And so yeah, that's it. It keeps you up at night, like again in the thick of things. But like 15 years later, like I'm here, I can laugh about it, and that's keeping perspective again, where it's like times get tough, but you gotta just ride the waves. So
Yeah, and in the interactions that we've had already, Bill, I love I love that about you, the fact that you've got a great positive mindset, and like you can see the humor in things, you can look back at things, and you're very humble.
every day I see the humor in things. Look at his face.
Very humble, and I really really love that. I really do. I've got a message that I'm going to get to in a second that I've got
Sure.
from Martin, and Martin's going to be able to come on in here as well. But there's two more topics that were on my kind of thought process, and I'd just love to get your thoughts on it. Number one is from a time management point of view, because I think
Mhm.
time management's always something that's it's different for all of us in terms of how we manage our time, but it's common to all of us. So it's really fascinating on how lots different people manage their time. So what's your thoughts on how you manage your time? Because you're obviously doing quite a lot.
Yeah, so I mean, when I'm home with my family, I always do my absolute best to stay present because the kids are only young once, and I'd hate to be like the person that's always glued to my phone. And well, it's important to be connected and such. Like when I'm home, and family time is pretty sacred in that sense. Um, on the other hand, there's always times where it's like, hey, this is a big deal, and they understand. Like right now, they're around because it's summer break, and it's like, you stay up in your room, you need something, silently come down, figure it out with mom. It's cool. So like they're really respective in that sense. But like that's my day to day. I do try to keep my first couple hours in the morning open, just because you never know what fires are you're gonna wake up to, or what's like urgent to take care of. So it's still kind of like the entrepreneurial mindset, where it's like when I was an entrepreneur, I didn't keep like a calendar. I had like a day to day of like stuff I had to do, but I didn't have like meetings or like deadlines or like stuff. I think my previous calendar consists of like credit card payment dues and then like when the book festival stuff needed to happen, like if I need to fly somewhere for supply or those contracts. And that's really it. I've kind of kept that kind of mindset now. On the other hand, I do have more structure in a sense, but I try to keep that later in the day. And yeah, I'm a little less fresh with that, but that's okay. Like I said, the most fresh I need to be is for like urgent stuff that comes up where I need to be like able to pivot, able to be full of energy, stuff like that. So right around like noon my time, which is another half an hour or so, um, is when I try to like keep for the afternoon type of stuff, the more businessy type of things on my plate, and that's more structured. So just how I operate. Some people like to do it the opposite way. That's fine. There's really no rhyme or reason. I'd say for our listeners, find a schedule that works with you that you're comfortable with. I'm a night owl by nature, but I also get up pretty early. I just usually sleep about 5 to 6 hours, and that's about it. And then every now and then I'll get like a nice 8, 9, 10 hour sleep. So like I'm not just constantly, wired with caffeine, but like so I do take care of my body, but generally speaking, it's pretty thin on sleep in that sense. And it just works, I've tried to do 8 hours solid, and it doesn't work well for me. So
Yeah. And thank you very much for sharing. And the second kind of topic was artificial intelligence and
yes, yes, yes.
what your thoughts are on artificial intelligence from a perspective of, I guess, like from a macro level, and what your thoughts are in terms of this kind of transformation that we're going through, and then maybe where we are presently on like a day to day where you may be using it, or will the books are looking at using it?
Mhm. Yep. So I mean, at macro level, obviously, it's where everybody's super excited, and there's always that fear, right? So it's like if you have the ability to drive somewhere or take the train or take a airplane, at least in the States, people are more inclined to drive because they're in control. There's always that fear, like, hey, the plane could go down. But statistically, we know plane is like the most safest, very, very safe. So similarly, there's those hesitations with AI where it's like we're not in control, humans are relinquishing some of that control away. And I feel like there's always going to be a need for that checks and balance situation. And that's good though in any business and any transaction. With Glenn and me, we're always checking and balancing, but not relentlessly. We weren't micromanaging each other. We had that trust built in. But every now and then, if I wanted to pop and say, "Hey, show me this," or "Let's talk about that," see how it's doing, and vice versa, it was never a a backpedal where someone felt attacked. It was just one of those things where this is what good partners do. So similarly, like the AI machines, those robots better understand that when a human is checking it, we're not trying to second guess them. So yeah, but we do need to check to make sure that everything's running properly. But I think it's like long term, I mean, the growth in the last 2.5, 3 years that what I've seen comparative to how it was, to how it is now, is amazing. And like you mentioned earlier, the rapid growth of technology, like we are in such a golden age to be alive, where it's like 150 years ago, there were no cars. People were in horses and carriages and like climbing mountains by walking only, or horse riding only. And it's like, but now we can fly over them and we can do all these things, and like we can send rockets everywhere. Like, and this is a sliver of time in the history of humans. And like I think when you think of just like e-commerce and all that in the last 30 years or so, fast forward another 30 years, and then you have these two forces of e-commerce, what will happen, the technology that's there just in the regular world, and then you take the robot, the AI technology, and combine them. Like this could be like anything on demand in 10 minutes with like these micro warehouses of the most popular, and they're going to be able to do that, right? They're going to say, hey, Bill buys this once a year, so we don't need to keep a lot of these close. But we can forecast that and just have it magically appear. And like all these things might just magically happen. I read something the other day where it's like cars are the largest asset we buy, but yet the least used asset we own. So in other words, like there could be a world very soon where you just rent a car always, where you don't own a car anymore. Just I need to go here, I hail it, I hit a button, in 2 minutes, somebody's car comes, takes me to where I want to go, and then it leaves. And because like the cars are all controlled by themselves, you can go 100 miles an hour or 150 km on the roads everywhere. And you don't need lights so much because they could just interact and go. And so, A, we get to save that time to sit back and chill. and be more productive with their life. But B, then we save on our, we don't have to have this like maintenance and big time asset in us as a burden. And then C, like traffic and parking lots go away. These are like a world, and that's maybe 10, 15 years out. Like, and maybe it's 30, 40, but like that's a that's a distinct possibility that could happen in our lifetimes. And like when you think of that's one application that combines technology and AI and then apply it to everywhere in life, like it's going to be a lot of change and we need to embrace it, but we also need to have the checks and balances to make sure that it lines up. So, but yeah, I'm excited for it for sure. So, and as for World of Books, we're definitely doing some things. We can do better though with it. We're helping with like listings, we're helping with forecasting. We have four data scientists on our team. Maybe someday we could have more, or we could are even more productive, or maybe someday we could have less because it's all computer driven. I don't know what that looks like. I'm not in charge of that part. I would like to see more where the computers are self-learning and because our algorithm was based on that essentially back before there were AIs, an AI self-learning doing it. But to me, that's the best, right? When the robots can just take care of it. And I call them robots because I know it's AI, but like
Yeah, no,
one lump sum of things. Yeah. So
no, that's great. Really interesting. I did have a message, Martin. Did you want to join? It was a direct message to me here. Yeah,
okay.
jump in, Martin, and ask Bill a question. And introduce yourself, and
Hi,
Hello.
Bill. So my name's Martin. Thank you for your time. Obviously, it's really good listening to another e-commerce provider, someone who's done really well, and understand how you've taken your journey. Because obviously there is no one prescriptive journey to go from A to Z. There's a number of myriad approaches. I had the pleasure of
Correct.
meeting Kev about 2.5 years ago, and we've been on a journey, me and Kev, for the last 18 months, trying to build out uh, an e-commerce platform to help Amazon sellers. But what I want to ask in terms of eBay is, because I'm not really an expert on it, is to understand, what do you think the biggest problems eBay sellers currently encounter? How have you overcome them as a first point? And then if you had a magic wand and you could have infinite amount of time, if you think, because that's what AI could do for you, what
Hmm.
things would you want it to scale that you could do more of that would help your business?
Ooh. Um, okay. So eBay to me, for the last up until the last couple years, was always that platform that was like super mom and pop shoppy type of thing, like this. But and it's kind of their core strength, where it was like anybody with a couple things can go on and list it, and it's a bunch of small sellers. The problem with that is that when you have that mindset and the buyers are also the same, then people are very, very, very like the best word I can come up with, and it might not be the right one, is needy, where it's like 2 days later they get nervous that their $5 is gone. They have no trust. Whereas like Amazon has been like a pillar of creating trust between buyers and sellers, the A to Z program, et cetera, for better, for worse. Like sellers sometimes don't like it and it gets in our way and they mess with us and we always kind of feel it's like not so much fair on this from the seller perspective, but when you think of the buyer perspective, like nobody has any issue buying anything from Amazon. We know, hey, we can return it. We Amazon will have our back. Like as a buyer, Amazon is the number one platform, and so that really helps us. Whereas eBay doesn't have that. They've gotten a lot better over the last couple of years. I'm meeting them next month. Yeah, August. I'll have some feedback on them for that. And talking to some folks on different things that they have in the pipeline and what have you. But eBay doesn't have a similar program. And the world doesn't need a second Amazon. The world doesn't need a second eBay. So eBay still needs to kind of find its own identity, but I think they've done a great job, as I said recently, doing that. Sorry, you're on mute. So mute.
Ma- I
Right?
think I think Martin
Nope, still
might be
mute.
talking to. Are you unmuted,
Oh,
Martin?
okay. You trying to talk to me or somebody else?
I'm sorry, apologies. I was put on mute. Bill, look, thank you very
You couldn't
much for
tell.
that. But my second question to you then was, that's obviously the issues with eBay and obviously the trust.
Hmm.
If you obviously you've obviously implemented AI already, but
Right.
one of the things I've noticed is obviously that scale is its friend, its ability to do repetitive tasks and speed that up. Is there anything that you're currently looking at your business at the moment, thinking that if we could do that just much better or much faster and come to that decision, you'd improve your return on investment or your sales opportunity?
Yeah, so World of Books has made their hay, if you will, on having selection. That was the biggest game changer I brought to Sell Back Your Book and then Second Sale, where it's like when I started, they had, let's call it 100,000 items for sale, and then I got it to 1 million, and then 2 million, and now we have 8 million items in stock in Chicago and 22 million worldwide. And because again, like lots of scale, and the biggest factor of that is that we can, how we're successful is that buyers come to eBay or World of Books or any of the other marketplaces that we sell on, and they buy not only just one item, but they buy four at a time or eight at a time or what have you. So they basket build using AI and different technologies to help make that a better flow through the warehouse, a better pick, pack, pull situation. It's all like those items quicker, better, making sure if an item that we have 20 of isn't in that first slot where the database said it was, then we easily can route that picker or another picker to go help find the second slot or third slot or et cetera, to find that book and fill that order. And this again sounds very simple when you're selling, a handful of items or hundreds of items or thousands of items, but our scale is like over 100,000 units a day worldwide. So it's like these are complex problems more so, but they're definitely solvable with some AI and that would help improve. Secondarily, I think we could do a better job of buying more items from folks and making more competitive offers based on the other offers in the landscape. So in the States here, there's a site called OddsJam, and I'm not promoting them in any way, but just it's an online marketplace that has like if you're placing bets on sports, it's company A and company B, and there used to be a ability where you could like arbitrage, because one sportsbook had some deal and some other sportsbook had another deal. Similarly, like with all the competitive nature of buyback offers with books, that's as the famous saying goes again from Jeff Bezos, here he comes up again. Your opportunity is my, or your margin is my opportunity. I can't believe I messed it up. And if we're leaving money on the table or if we're not being competitive enough, we're losing that shot at those books. So that's another way we could scale and get better with keeping that. Because if we're not updating in lifetime or monitoring those like instantaneously, then we're losing the opportunity. And then the third way we could do better is to help scale. Like you said, you have infinite time with AI. And this is probably actually the most important one I would say is just getting our offer out there more, like everywhere, making a more fluid API that could be attached to any system where, the ultimate goal that I brought to the table is to say, anytime anybody anywhere is scanning a book, we want to be part of that offer. Even if it's a 0% success rate, we just want to be there and in the mix because at some point, that's brand awareness and that's good. That's not a bad thing to see people see Sell Back Your Book and now they see World of Books. This is a good thing. So at some point they're going to say, "Hey, what is that little shiny button there?" And they're going to click it and see and maybe take that offer. But we can't have that transaction until we're there. So step one is getting there. But step one is really making it more accessible for any type of platform, any type of POS system, any type of inventory management system, any type of stuff that I don't even know is out there. But anybody scanning a book, anybody thinking about a book, library systems, et cetera, um, you know, we need to be there. So, and we're not there yet, of course, because we're not everywhere. But the goal would be to use AI to help scale that. So, I think those are what I would do. So,
Amazing. Thank you very much for your time.
of course, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the question. Pleasure meeting you.
And there was
I think
also
Fabio had something too
just a couple of
in chat.
questions from Fabio here. Fabio, did you
Yep.
want to jump on and ask, or would you want me to just read them out?
Sure,
Uh,
I can do it myself.
Hello.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you all. It's a pleasure to be
Likewise.
here. Yeah, I mean, I had a couple of questions. I'm a bookseller myself, so as you can imagine,
Awesome.
like something quite interesting for me as an opportunity. And I just wanted to understand, especially like given the size of what books and the data that you have access to, if in the last
Mhm.
years you have had access to any particular like insights or trends that you've seen growing in terms of categories, like seasonality, also formats. And on the other side, like one thing that would be very interesting is also understanding your perspective in terms of acquisition and planning for the future, what advice would you give to small sellers who would have that kind of aim? And also understanding your experience. Was it something that you planned since the beginning, or is it something that arrived on the way in a way?
Great questions. We'll start with the first one first. So given the scale, um, with like our data, there hasn't been surprising trends, but what we have seen, in a sense, I mean, you never know where the data is going to lead you, and you can always manipulate the data to kind of support your thesis. So it's kind of it's ultimately it's very important to always use the data to drive your decisions and to not have a personal bias to kind of lead or support what you're thinking, for one. But for two, with that data, we've been able to see that there's definitely a lot of like folks buying low low priced books for like opportunities a couple quarters down the line. So there's folks called the Book Mine here in the States, and some arbitrage companies that specifies specifically, focus on this point where like it's July right now. They're worried about St. Patrick's Day or Valentine's Day or Easter even. So 2 3 quarters ahead, maybe just starting to finish up their holiday buying for Christmas and the end of the year holiday stuff. And they're buying those items now because they know the dip is here on demand and the supply is probably heavy and the prices are certainly low. And you can take those items and sell them opportunistically down the line. So we're trying to get better with trying to not have those folks do that. On the other hand, hey, like a sale's a sale, and we're happy to move it and create value. And if that's how it goes, like that's how it goes, because just because we miscalculated on our forecast stability and the market is what the market is. Our risk tolerance is not to hold books forever and ever. It's to move them within a certain amount of time, typically about a year's time. So if we bought something last July and we didn't sell it till this July and it missed last holiday season, then oh well, it's a bargain basement price now, and it's probably on death's door, if you will, to get purged before even it'll hit this type of holiday cycle. So let it go, let it go, let it go. Um, as for the acquisition part, um, it's not something that I ever like thought would happen to me. You kind of say, hey, this would be nice, when you start a business. uh, like I acquired Pennyworth books from somebody else, so like I was already part of the process on the other side of that because I knew it would add a value. But when I was doing it, I didn't see an end, um, and I just figured I'd be doing that for quite some time. But then this opportunity came and hit, and I'm like, you know what? This is the best for me at the time. And then when World of Books came knocking, this was the best case for us. So it's like life can change, life can hit you hard, life can pivot your priorities and your mindset of like where you think you're going to be. So I would always say focus on the profits as we all do, but like focus on being nimble because you like when these opportunities come, you gotta really think about it because it was a big decision. As I told Glenn, like no matter what we choose, we're gonna have a little regret on the other end of it, right? If we don't sell, we're gonna say, man, we walked away from something. Or if we do sell, man, we could have kicked their tail, or whatever. And uh, it as it was, we probably couldn't have, but I like to think we still could have. But here we are. So, and what is. Once you make the decision, you have to be okay with settling on it. As for what you can do to make your company acquirable, I would always say that I think the most important driver is to have something unique that someone can always build it or buy it, and that's like the big debate. And so, with my situation, I had something that Glenn could have built, but he also got the package of me included. And so, like, he could have built it, but then he would have had to find somebody else to be the me, and it wouldn't have worked. So it worked because I had the proof of concept, and then I was attached to it, and I had, gain in the upside. So that was a big package deal. So make yourself either irreplaceable in a sense where you are completely more valuable than anybody else can be, but B, you have something proprietary to your business. So it's like selling online and having a company that has 0 employees or 20 employees or 100 employees, that's great. And you can make a lot of money doing that. But like until you have supply contracts or viable things that somebody else wants to buy or specialized software or a value add that nobody else can do or nobody else can do it the same way you can do, that's what's special, right? Anybody can flip stuff. Anybody, especially with all the videos and I mean we're adding to the problem here, Kev. We're creating more content. We're part of the problem, but also part of the solution. But like things like this, right, will help hopefully inspire somebody else down the line to take action and do something that they've been wanting to do. So we're creating more competition. Sorry. And sorry for me too, because this is the thing, the way. But at the end of the day, when you have something that is unique and proprietary to you, that then somebody else wants, especially when it's like a contractually based component, they either have to wait that contract out and buy it for more or offer them more, but they still have to convince the other party too. That's the tough part, which is never just like a given. So you want to think again long term to help make your business defensible, create a moat around it, and give someone else a reason to say, man, I wish I could do that, but I can't because Fabio has it locked in and I got to wait it out 3 years or I got to write him a check. So if you can get to there, then you're in a great shape. And I don't know specifically what that is, but like, some maybe perhaps just some light ideas here. You can maybe this will help create some wheels, get some wheels turning, whatever. Contact local thrift stores or charity shops in your area, rather. Contact some local libraries and get some exclusivity. Add value to them. Ask what their problems are. Ask what their issues are. Ask how you can solve their needs. Don't make it one-sided. Hey, I want to come and buy books. So does 30 other people. Yeah, they get asked that probably 10 times a week. Like you're not doing anything different there to them. Yeah, but if you say, hey, where do your books go that you can't sell? Where does this happen? Where does this go? How does this happen? How do you price your books? How can I help with that? They're going to say, oh, okay, you can help with this. You can help with that. Like you're going to open it up. And remember, like we have the unique ability, especially with books, that we don't need to pay money necessarily. We can solve problems and work for product because books to us are equal to money. Someone hands you $10, $30 or 30 pound rather books. It's just as good as you driving around all day or making some deals or buying them. Like, so always remember that books are bags of cash. And so you can trade your time for product in that sense. And that makes it a lot easier on their end because they're not writing a check, they're not risking their dollars. They're giving away some product that they were going to sell anyway. And you can really make that connection and add a value. But that's where I would start. I would just try to get something loose. You never want to walk in with a 20-page contract to somebody day one and say, hey, sign this, sign this. You got to work your way there, right? It's like dating. You got to before you even think about holding a hand, you gotta ask them out. You gotta figure it out. And so you gotta all these steps along the way. So keep that perspective and go from there and get something. Lastly, I would say like if you go back in time and think about Uber, okay? Uber was a completely different market, obviously, but like if you haven't watched what is it called? Super something on it's a story of Uber. It's like an 8 or 9 series mini series. It's on one of the streamers. But it was really well done. And what they did was Super Pumped is what it's called. What they did was they completely like brutally so boxed out the taxi cabs and like made it where they couldn't compete. And I mean they were ruthless in many ways. I'm not saying to be an Uber, but the takeaway from it is they were able to make themselves the only option in town. And so you want to do it ethically, you want to do it the right way, you want to be a good person. But you also along that way though, you need to be able to box people out to get them not in your way, right? Like you need to figure out how to be the only person that this charity shop can sell books to. And so that's what you need to figure out. So that's all. So the takeaway from Uber is do it, do it better, do it nicer, but create a moat around your business. Make a defensible business. And that's the biggest takeaway. So I would say do it with kindness and do it ethically. Uber did not do either of those things, but what they were able to do so successful is create a moat and create a defensible business. Because now there's very limited options and they're at worldwide scale. So does that all help?
Thank you very much. Yes. Very
Perfect.
happy.
Awesome.
Great.
And good luck and congratulations on everything too. How long have you been in the book business?
It's been a couple of years now.
Awesome. Awesome. Congrats. That's super exciting. So it's enjoy your journey, celebrate the milestones and keep going. So next time I talk to you, I want you to have 10 unique agreements. So even just handshake deals, because those are fine, but like some type of arrangement where you get either first crack or all that. But again, you have to add value back to them, and that's how you can both win. So
Thank
Yeah,
you.
we had the pleasure of meeting Fabio a couple of months now, and Fabio probably doesn't know this himself, but we talk in our warehouse now. It's like it's Fabio's library.
nice,
So
nice,
he's doing amazing stuff. Really is. But
perfect. That's
um,
great.
really appreciate your time. I realize we're going for an hour now. I feel like I could talk all day. It's so
Time
fascinating.
flies.
Your story, your insights, your willingness to share with us, and I'm really grateful for some time out of your day with
Of
us. And
course.
I uh, I'm sure that there might be other things that come from people that watch the recordings and stuff, but with next time you're in the UK, I know we spoke about this privately as well,
Mhm.
but do shoot us a message. I'd love to would love to maybe have a coffee or something together, and you're welcome to come
For
and see
sure.
us anytime.
Yeah, I'd love to do like even just some we could do something where it's planned to say, hey, mutually meet Kevin, meet Bill, and have a coffee or have a pint of water, of course, and come on, stop by. So I love meeting people. I love talking to them, as you could tell, and just hopefully solving some problems or helping them inspire or get them to that next level of where they need to think. And yeah, I love to do it. I'm on Instagram. It's at Bill Martlink. It's very easy. My name's up there, put a little ad behind it, before it, and then no space. And I'm very accessible. I answer everything. I don't have one of those fancy VAs. Everything comes to me. Um, and happy to network and talk and talk more. Of course, thank you, Martin. Thank you, Fabio. There's somebody else on here, and thank you to anybody listening live later. Um, where were you now? Where were you now? But fine, fine. We're all busy. We live busy lives. Or hopefully we're out making money, and that's fine too. But no, I super appreciate the opportunity, Kev. This was awesome. You got a great bunch of people here. And it's just awesome time as always. So
Yeah, and when I share this, Bill, it'll come with your Instagram. So is it
okay,
Instagram the platform that you're most?
yeah, for now. Yeah, like yeah, sure.
Yeah,
Never
I'll
figured that
tag
out.
you.
Like, sure.
I'll make sure that everybody has the tag. So make sure you do follow Bill on Instagram and things of this nature. But I'm sure in the future we're going to do more things. I'm absolutely
Cool.
convinced of it. And
I'm up for
okay,
anything.
Bill. So yeah, well, thank you guys for the last hour or so. Really thankful. I know everybody. I think they're just put in the channel saying thank you. Um, so yeah, have a fantastic day, Bill. I mean, it's the start of your day. What time is it there now?
It's noon, so
Oh, it's noon.
yeah. So now it's time to get to the business stuff.
Yes, yes.
As I mentioned, this is the free part of the day, and then later is now the kind of admin, kind of this, kind of check up on that, boring stuff, but the stuff that drives the business and the stuff that's needed, and it's like the accounting or the tax stuff when you're doing business in the early days and you're wearing all the hats. Like it's the stuff that nobody looks forward to doing, but it's the part that's fundamental to the business to keep it moving forward. And so it's like it's just as important in some regard. I would actually say it just depends on where you are in the business. But nobody enjoys this part of doing things, but it's you have to do it. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's the rest of my day. But I got some calls mixed up, but yeah.
Yeah, have a great day, Bill, and I'll be in contact very soon, and we'll have a bit of a catch up, I'm sure. But thank you guys, really appreciated, and enjoy the rest of the evening, you guys, and enjoy your afternoon, Bill. And of course, if anybody's got any questions or whatever, if you're watching this back on the recording, don't hesitate to shoot over, and we'll go from there as well. All right,
That was
guys,
great. Cheers.
see you later.
Bye.
Bye bye.